I get a text in church of a screenshot of a Google review, 2 Google reviews, where it's saying that one of my dental assistants twerked outside the CBCT room while the patient was getting a CBCT.
I mean, luckily, I don't think we've really partnered with anyone that was like a bad partner.
No, we haven't had any issues, luckily, where it's been anything with like someone taking money or not. Yeah. I mean, because even for us, like when we did our first startup, Alex didn't own the practice 100%. She was partnered with someone. So almost like a similar concept to what you did, except she was the main provider there too, right? She wasn't trying to.
If I knew there was a way to not be clinical, no.
But no,
which there definitely is, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. No,
so,
I was going to work in the offices. They were going to come in as the partner. Same kind of deal with the money, right? Because we were going to build this DSO, but not with acquisitions, with startups. So we were going to do these cluster of offices, and we were like, we'll run them and stuff like that. But again, financing. It's like, who's going to lend us the money type of thing. So,
well, I think it was a little bit of that too. And I think the other thing that I probably struggled with out of the military, and I feel like maybe I influenced you negatively on it, was not having the confidence to be able to do it, right? So like part of it came from like fear from me saying
that sounds like you.
this person's done this already. They know what they're doing. Let's just use them. Like instead of saying I'll take the risk and all the reward, I think it was like, I can.
Well, maybe more you.
That's
like
more me.
like I had that acquisition. I had my other practice, so I knew I could run a practice. Like I wasn't worried about it. I knew I could do it by myself, and I was fine doing a startup by myself too. But my long-term goal was to have multiple practices, and I just felt like I needed a little bit more support, not from you, from someone who knew what they were doing.
Not me.
So that's where that partnership came from, and that also unraveled as well.
Yeah, but luckily for us too, with that, like after that person had sold their business to someone else and we got like a new set of partners, very quickly on, they said, hey, this really isn't, they were more acquisitions. They weren't startups as much. And they were very nice and friendly. They said, hey, this isn't really our model. We know we got thrown into this marriage. You guys probably weren't expecting this either. Like, let's figure out an easy way to break up. We came up with a fair market value what the practice was, bought them out, and it was really easy. And like that, so like that experience was, I mean, as good as it can.
Stressful in the moment, but the outcome turned out okay.
Yeah, but it didn't go nuclear or anything. I mean, I think we had attorneys like reviewing things just because there were a lot of contracts on the front end, but it wasn't to like hurt the other person or get something from the other one. We were always in dialogue and still talking to each other. So that was good.
I love that Alex pointed out. So they got everything. They got the house and the kids and the dog, and you just walked away. And I was like, oh, maybe I should have got lawyers now that I'm looking back.
Yeah. I mean, her dad was
my dad's a lawyer.
An attorney.
You need a lawyer. Yeah.
Well, that's what it's even better to have a lawyer you don't have to pay. So marry a lawyer, have a parent who's a lawyer. You've just got that in your back pocket at any given moment. Like, I got an attorney.
Yeah. Right. Because then we've been in like, besides us being in partnerships, if it was marriage or businesses or stuff like that, we've been in partnerships with other people too, right? And I know you have as well. Just you mentioned George, other people. I feel like both of us have been in a lot of situations where we've gone into partnerships with people, and I think after going through several of those, I think it's really for us kind of honed in some things that we've seen that maybe when we're deciding whether or not to do one, we have a lot more knowledge on, like, here's a red flag maybe, or here's things I needed to vet better, right? Which is hard to do without experience, right? And going through it.
So like my always first instinct with partnerships is no. Like, no. And that goes on with like anything Eric says too. He's like, why don't we do this? I'm like, no. And then let me think about it for a second. But pretty much I kind of frame it backwards a little bit. And I don't know, it's like the inversion of this. And I don't know who came up with this.
We sounded like a Hermazi podcast or something.
Well,
like
something
that.
where you like think of it not like how to, what are the things you need for a partnership, for a successful partnership or whatever. It's like, no. Let's think of it as how can you guarantee a bad partnership? And let's list out those things. So like number one, they have the exact same knowledge base as you. You come in with them and they know you and that partner are bringing the same things to the table, right? So they don't bring any other extra value pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's like the number one thing. Like don't do that. They have the same amount of time that you do. So if like you have no time to do whatever business or practice or whatever, they also have no time. It's like, let's bring them into the partnership because then no one's going to get anything done. Right. So that's like another point. Money. If you don't want to put in any money and they don't want to put in any money, like,
that's
luck.
not gonna,
Yeah, that's like, those are the top three that I kind of look at. If you are doing a partnership, they have to at least have one of those things that you don't have, right? Or else, I mean, why do the partnership, right?
Why? Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that framework, by the way. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I can keep going.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
Tell
lots. We have different expectations of one another and of like the business. So it's like, I expect you to do this, and this. And they expect me to do that, and that, and it's like, well, wait, who's doing what? If you don't have clear expectations from the start, like that's going to be pretty rough.
Well, I would add to that. So of all these so far, the different expertise, all of that, the expectations and the long-term vision, and maybe that's another point of yours, but like I've now experienced this where I've partnered with people with very different long-term goals than me and very different time horizons. So maybe you're like, right now, we're very aligned in like what we want and where we're going. But in 2 years, are you going to want to go way further, way harder, way longer than me? Or are you going to want, and my current partnership, I've told them since day one, I'm a cheap date. I live in the Midwest. I don't like expensive cars. We've got like a $400,000 house in Brownsburg, Indiana. Like I'm not that like guy who needs bazillions of dollars to be happy. And I'm very clear about that. And past a certain dollar amount, like it's not worth the stress for me.
Yeah.
And so knowing that about myself, is it worth kind of killing myself for 5 years to grow to be a size where we could have like some large exit? For me, it's not. And that actually, that like mismatch of expectations has been a source of like, okay, I've got different goals than maybe my partners, but at the same time, we're still tied together in a partnership. So
Absolutely.
you got to figure that out.
Yeah. Different. Yeah, totally. Expectations at the task level, but also the mission and like the values. If those are misaligned, let's partner together because I have one goal, you have another goal. Well, this is going to be super messy.
Like easy if you were doing like with software and stuff that we're working on, if one partner's like, oh yeah, I want to build this to here and exit in 4 years, right, and get a big payout. The other person is like, no, I want this to be a lifestyle business and I want to do this for 20 years, right? Like that's not going to work. It's almost like if you're looking at getting married to someone and there's an issue on like children, right? Like that's always a big thing that if one partner really wants kids and the other doesn't, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's just long-term goals.
Yeah.
And I've even talked with a DSO partnership that are brothers. So it's two brothers. They're acquiring offices. One of them wants to scale as fast as possible to get to like 100 offices. Like just wants to acquire. Doesn't mind being less profitable along the way, but it's just kind of speed to like size. And the other one is like, I want to operate a business that's profitable every step along the way. And we go slower. We, take our time. We buy really good acquisition targets. We build infrastructure that can handle our growth. And they're at odds. Like they just have different goals, even though they're going in the same direction. How they're getting there, how long it's going to take, how much they expect out of this are very different. And I'm now of the opinion of like, it's really nice to have a cash flowing business all along the way. And then you've got options. I can stop and pause and take a breath. I can continue to scale. I could sell right now because it's profitable. I don't have to like stop and get it profitable.
You're kind of in the driver's seat in that, right? Like you make the decision versus the other way. Like whenever we've had to like either say when we were going through our selling our practices journey or that, whenever we've been in a position where we didn't have to do it, but if we wanted to, we could. It's always way better. I feel like you always end up getting a better deal when you're not in
if you're in control. Sure.
Yeah, not even in control, but not in like desperation, right?
Desperation.
That's the worst position you want to be in.
Yeah.
So, and with that too, I would say the other thing is who's on top and who's on bottom. Like, to be honest, is like 50-50 partnerships, even though you might think, and it might be on paper that, this is a 50-50 partnership, or we're all equal. If there's 4 of us, we're all 25%. Just know that if you're buying into a practice, the original owner will always be seen as more of a leader and will have a hard time relinquishing the reins. And if you're selling half your practice into a DSO, like
that's like, it's like how the DSOs work, right? Like, you have to go into that knowing they have a majority. And that's the reason why you don't really, I don't really see DSOs that do 50-50 or come in as minority partners. They're going to come in as the majority. So, you have to go into that knowing that in the deal. And even with the other partner, with another business we're working on, we went in 50-50, and that has been an issue because almost someone has to have more equity and be in charge. Like, there has to be one leader. It's really hard because what ends up happening is no one knows who the leader is, and then it's confusion. And then like, if both you and the other partner are more like inherently not follow through people or like lazy, then nothing gets done, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my point on that too was that I think the way that a DSO does it, where it's like 51-49, like it's like, okay, we're practically 50-50 partners, but at the end of the day, we have to be able to kind of sell the whole entity. We're in charge kind of when it comes down to the line, is actually more transparent than a doctor who buys into a practice thinking that they are true 50-50 partners. And until that senior doctor retires, it is super rare that you'll ever actually be in practice the senior doctor. Even if you're really like 50-50 partners, even if you're really good and they really respect you, like there's always that tiebreaker of like, what do we do when we kind of disagree and both sides could make sense?
Yeah.
The original doctor who was the owner, it usually goes in that direction.
And most likely too, a lot of the team members remember when it was just the first doctor that owned it all. So that'll still happen too. So yeah, that's actually a good point. That's actually true. There's probably a lot of people out there in that type of a situation, right? Where they're a younger, maybe started as an associate, bought into something with a dentist who's maybe a generation older. And I wonder if I bet you that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And also, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, like, and other things that we had already mentioned for bad partnerships is not having anything written down. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's like, let's just handshake deal this. It's like, oh gosh, no, like, don't do that. Don't have anything like, oh, it's just unspoken that we're going to do this. And if this happens, whatever, it's like, that's one definite way for it to get kind of messy. And then my last thing on how to guarantee a bad partnership is just give it all away. Like, give everything. Oh, I think that person's like, they're going to work a little bit harder than me. Maybe it's like 60-40, or maybe, oh, I think they're going to do this. Maybe 70-30, or whatever it is. It's like, why? Like, why are you doing that to be nice? Like, let's leave. This isn't a relationship. This is a partnership. Like, it has to be like business first.
And that's probably where I've had to learn that throughout the years. My biggest issue is because I like have that inherent need to be liked by everyone. Like inherently I'm terrible with negotiating because I want someone to like me. So I'm going to give right away when I shouldn't have to. And so like Alex will always give me shit on it that, if we were doing a new business or doing something like that, I'll talk to her and be like, oh yeah, I've already gotten like 3 partners and now we have like 10% of the company, right? But it's good. They're all cool guys. They're nice.
I know.
It's like great.
Yeah, I know.
It'll
It's
be
like,
great. It'll be great.
Richard, you're going to walk away today and you have like part of our business for some reason. And I'd be like, what the hell happened?
Software
like,
guys, let's do software. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, damn it, Eric, not again.
So that'll be and then for me, I think a good lesson I've learned is, and I don't know, Richard, maybe you have a good thought on this, is everyone, when they enter any type of relationship, right, whether it's dating or in business, everyone's going to show the best version of themselves right away, right? So, at least for me, what ended up happening in one partnership was, everyone's really gung-ho, myself, the other person, and then, about 3 months in, You start to learn, like, how hard is this person actually going to work? Like, they told me they were going to do this, but I'm starting to see some red flags of, like, yeah, they're not really responding.
Yeah, that honeymoon phase is kind of done.
And so I still don't really have a great answer on how to vet for that, because everyone's going to put their best. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I got something. Well, so I think this is especially a problem in the side hustle dental world, where it's like you and multiple dentists, and you're like getting together. You're like, let's build this thing. What are we going to do? And what you were saying earlier about the expectations of it should be, this is where you go full legal, is right up front, the prenup, the contracts, the expectations, the structure of everything, including what is the expectation of time commitment? Like, how many days a week are we expecting out of your contribution to the partnership? And if someone is bringing, if you're 50-50 partners, but one of, like, everyone's kind of working part-time on the side, and they've got some other main commitment, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And the fuel, the after hours before work, the lunch break, the weekend fuel will run out, and someone will be the primary driver, and other people.
And that's like 100% what ended up happening is we all, like, I'm still a practicing dentist, and I was there full time. The other person still had a full-time job too. And it's like, no, if you want a business to run, someone's got to be doing it full time. It can't just be like a side gig for everyone. And then it just, I felt it fell more on me, because I was a little bit more of the subject matter expert in it. So there was a little bit more value I feel like I provided to it. And then just, that's when resentment starts to happen, right? And you're like, crap, we're 50-50, but if I'm doing 90% of the work, like, I'd like to have a bigger piece of the pie, right? And then so, like you said, it doesn't end up working. But yeah, I think having everything buttoned up.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Hey, quick break here. If you're enjoying Just a Couple Dentists, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. It's the best way to keep up with new episodes and hear us argue about dumb stuff and complain about dentistry. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. Now back to the show.
And I want to be sensitive to your guys' time. I know we're at the top of the hour. I still have a little more we could talk about, but I don't want to keep going.
Oh, no. This is good.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Well, so
yeah.
To come back to this one, I mean, I actually just recently walked away from an offer of equity at a software company that's dental related, because I've now experienced, so with this last partnership, we had 6 partners. I still have 6 partners on shared practices. And ironically, right after walking away from that partnership with Hunter and Will, we started a DSO, and I became the CEO of the DSO right after I was like, I don't want to run multiple offices. I don't think this is for me. And then like 12 months later, I'm like, why am I in charge here? But I fell apart. I lost it. Like, it was not sustainable, and I crashed and burned. I stepped down as the CEO, and then I had to take a multiple month sabbatical, like mental health, unpaid medical leave, to figure out what was going on, save my marriage, like figure everything out. And that was this last year in 2024. So for about 6 months in 2024, I was trying to figure out, what the heck do I do next? Like, I have PTSD running a DSO. Like, I just can't do it. I can't do it anymore. But I was like, the podcast side of things, I love talking on podcasts, but the actual, what we were building, I wasn't able to contribute in certain ways. So I was trying to figure out what to do. And a software company approached me and was like, hey, we could work together. And you could have a slice of this. And it was really attractive. And I was really grateful for that. And I really believed in who was doing it and the product they were doing. But I have learned that as a people pleaser, just like you, Eric, it really is hard on me when I'm letting my partners down. And I hate that feeling. Like, that feeling just drives me nuts. And that's what I felt like in the DSO. I felt like I wasn't able to hold on to myself enough through all the stress and manage myself from home as the CEO of this group. And I was failing my partners. I was failing the doctors. And that, like, ate me up inside and caused more, like, stress, anxiety, ADHD, crumpling. And so I said no to this pretty sweet opportunity to get in at the ground floor on some dental software, because I was like, you know what? I'm about to do another thing. And if I say yes to you right now, I'm worried that your expectations of me, I'm not going to be able to deliver on those. And then I'm going to feel guilty all the time. I'm going to feel bad all the time. I'm going to feel overwhelmed all the time.
And
like
and then
someone
you'll just
might
be in
look
that
at me
same
and say,
cycle
"You're an
that
idiot."
you've been in the past, right? And where you kind of felt like that, and it's just the same thing over and over again, and you're on that same loop.
Exactly. So just knowing, I think the time commitment, the realistic time commitment that you can commit to a partnership. When you're clinical, it's really obvious. Like, how many days a week are you working? Even your non-clinical days, are you working on admin? But when it gets into the side hustle software business that you're not a full-time partner on, that gets much more ambiguous. And I think a lot of dentists do stuff with their friends, and then it ruins the friendship. It blows up in their face, and then they're like, "Why did we do this? This kind of sucked."
Yeah. No, totally agreed on that. I think that's what we're kind of working through now too. And luckily, like one of our other partners on our I guess side well, it's not really it's not side. I guess how you define
We can,
it. But
if you want, we can just leave a note for the editor, and we can take everything out that we've just said for the last 20 minutes. If I've exposed your
no, I
entire
guess on our
life
other
in this
business we're doing
dialogue here,
right is he was really transparent on the front end because he had helped build like Medento and had a history and all that kind of stuff, and he knew he was doing other stuff, and so he was always really transparent on the front end, being like, I really only want this much equity in it for this because I can't commit more than that, and I don't want you guys to expect that. Yeah. So that was really good because I don't bug the shit out of him because, or I don't know, maybe he'll tell me to say the opposite, but I feel like I don't bug the shit out of him because he came in initially with that like transparency up front. So that
we knew the time commitment and we knew his expectations,
really nice.
And we're like, it's good.
So yeah, that was pretty good. But I mean, so on your end too, Alex, I know you were talking too, and maybe Richard, I don't know if you and your wife do this or if you've heard of this concept, but remember we were listening to a podcast earlier where they were talking about married people, right? Partners in that stance and running it like a business.
Yeah.
Do you remember that episode?
I mean, kind of. It's more like having meetings and like treating your marriage like like you said, like a business, like a partnership where it's like, all right, let's look at our books. Let's look at this. Let's look at our goals. Let's, do all of that stuff. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with that.
No, we haven't done
you guys do that. Have you it's a great podcast you listen to. When's your next board meeting?
Yeah, right. I know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Tuesday. So we set aside time and we're supposed to like talk about this stuff. But without like feelings and like, because we don't want it to turn into like an argument or I mean, hopefully not. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But
so we were going to try to see if like something like that works as well, right? Because we have stuff we're doing together that's outside of just being married to like businesses and stuff, and it just gets overwhelming. So I don't know your thoughts if you ever do anything like that with your wife in terms of like.
I guess what we're trying to say is, are there any lessons that you've learned from your partnerships that you can take home with like your partnership with your wife, right?
Oh yeah, much better said.
Yeah. Ironically, the prenup stuff, I think the right person in the first place, what we were talking about, like Hunter and Will, a perfect example. The only reason I did a deal with them in the first place because I knew they were good people. If you've screwed that up with your spouse, that's hard to fix. You married a person who wasn't a good person. As you said that, the thing that just came to mind is we just got in an argument in the last 24 hours about date night. And I had not set something up in a little while. We just had a funeral this last weekend. And we went on a date this morning. We had couples therapy this morning, and we had a brunch date this morning, which we decided now we're going to turn into a standing Friday morning brunch nice. Where we go to somewhere and have a date. I actually think that should be separate from a date. So don't count date night as both. This is our business meeting, and it's our date night.
Yeah.
You should have both on the calendar, and maybe start once a month as like your family business. This is like the low family business meeting, and we're going to go over finances and schedules and do it once a month. Block off 2 hours, make it fun, like order takeout, like get a babysitter, kind of treat it as its own thing. If you need to do all that, I think that'd be incredibly healthy to do, but do not for a second call that date night, because otherwise,
I feel like that would be most men that would do that, right? You're like, how do I kill two birds with one stone? Let's have a productive business meeting and call it date night. Sweet. All right, got them both done.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when you said that was my only takeaway of like, ooh, we should do that. And also my temptation to want to like kill two birds with one stone. Don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's totally good. Yeah, because if I did that, I know that would be after the meeting, Alex would be like, I'd be like, how was the meeting? She was like, yeah, it was fine. And I was like, oh God. Okay.
Oh yeah, my favorite words. Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, it was good.
It's fine.
Yep. Paying for that later.
Yeah. Like, all right.
Yeah. Well, that leads us into another story that you kind of briefly, I think, talked to Eric about, with maybe a bad marriage with your assistant. So tell us what happened there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So thank goodness we don't partner with team members most of the time. But we're talking about the Google review here, right?
Real quick, if you're into what we're talking about and want more, check out my newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's the dental blog you can actually read between patients. No fluff, no BS, just straight up tips, stories, and insights to help you level up. You can subscribe over at coupleofdentists.com or just hit the link in our show notes. Now back to the pod.
No, I'm talking about the one where there was someone who called off, work.
Oh, no. Okay. I was thinking of the assistant who, I was just telling the story of an assistant who there was.
Oh no, tell us this one too. We got two ones. We got two stories. We get double the good story today. So yeah, tell us this first one.
I get a text in church of a screenshot of a Google review, 2 Google reviews, where it's saying that one of my dental assistants twerked outside the CBCT room while the patient was getting a CBCT, and the patient was the Google reviewer's uncle, and I kind of went nuclear on the assistant via text, like outside. I stepped out of the meeting at church and was just like, what is going on here? What happened? And I assumed that I actually use this as an example of like what not to do in a crucial conversation. I assumed the worst, which you should never assume the worst. There's probably more to the story you haven't uncovered.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was true. It turns out it was not true. It was a former employee who was trying to get this assistant in trouble, or even like a friend. It was like someone who was mad at this dental assistant and like annoyed at them and left a Google review about her to like get her in hot soup.
Yeah. So that lets me know two things off the top of my head on that. So A, that employee must have known this employee well because you believed that they would have twerked. So like,
she literally also said, I have twerked in every dental office I've ever worked at, but never when a patient was there. So it was believable that she would have done this.
So that employee probably is like, oh God, what does Dr. Lowe think of me actually? So
and that was the problem, was that she was like, you believed it, so how dare you think that I was that unprofessional? I was like, it's not that far of a gap to jump.
Yeah, I guess.
That was funny.
So that was not the story. It was a different story. The story that I referenced in our messages was a story about, I'll be as vague as possible here so I can tell this story. At an office that I was a part of, but not practicing, there was a dental assistant who was pretty diligent, pretty good employee, worked hard. You could depend on her to get crap done. And turns out she murdered her husband. She shot her husband. Pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Pretty awful. And then she called and left a message saying that she wouldn't be at work the next day.
So was that like, I wonder if that was used as an alibi, or we know that person at least has good follow through.
Like, it just feels like a Breaking Bad situation where it's like the deed is done and she's like, crap, I got to clean up the mess. And she's like, and I got work tomorrow. I got to call off.
Yeah.
Like, but just the fact that she was and then this has been brought up to other dental assistants by someone else involved in this, of like, I have had assistants who have called off for reasons why they could have likely just never called ever again, and they still called off. And yet here you are, not calling in, rolling in late, all of these things. If you're not going to be here, freaking call. Even if you murdered your husband, give us a call and let us know you won't be there the next day.
Yeah.
So that we can at least know what's going on. But yeah, that assistant went to jail.
That's funny.
And
Very thoughtful.
Just never believe what happens.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I think that's a good breakdown of partnerships. Why Alex doesn't like doing them, right? But things to look out for, right? That I think we've learned. Because I think, honestly, I wonder what the numbers are, but I would venture to guess a good amount of dentists are in some type of partnership, right? especially nowadays, right? I think that the days where it was just hanging up the shingle 30, 40 years ago, and it was just one doctor there for 40 years by himself, that just really isn't the model you're seeing as much. So, I mean, I have no idea what it is, but I would think a good amount of dentists are in some type of partnership with someone.
And back to my prenup point, like you can guarantee whatever business partnership you are in will break up at some point. You just don't know if that's a year from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So the more you can iron out all the things that Alex went through, the more you can get it in paper right up front, have the discussions, have the hard conversations, means that when the day comes, you need to part ways, there's actually a way for you to do it, and it makes sense, and you follow the procedure, and you avoid getting into massive nuclear, ugly attorney battles that drag on for years.
Nice. I think that's a good final point on that.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Awesome.
All right,
thanks
thanks
for coming on.
Thank you, guys.